Welcome back to Klepper's Corner, Today in History. March 30th is one of those dates that feels less like a collection of historical milestones and more like humanity stress testing its own decision-making abilities across centuries. It is a day where ancient astronomers documented cosmic events that terrified empires. Medieval kings demonstrated that subtlety was not yet invented. Revolutionary scientists attempted to standardize reality itself. And modern leaders survived assassination attempts motivated by celebrity obsession. If history is a long-running reality show about human judgment, March 30th is the episode where the producers clearly leaned into drama, spectacle, and the occasional reminder that progress is often just panic organized more efficiently. Segment 1. Cosmic signs and humanity's talent for overthinking the sky. In 240 BC, Chinese astronomers documented the first known perihelion passage of Halley's Comet, unknowingly laying the groundwork for centuries of astronomical understanding, while everyone else immediately assumed the sky was delivering bad news. Across the ancient world, comets were treated less like scientific phenomena and more like celestial push notifications announcing impending doom. Under the glow of that same comet, Hamilcar Barca made his son Hannibal swear eternal hatred toward Rome, essentially turning orbital mechanics into generational military policy. Later, in 1282, Sicilians interpreted another comet as divine approval for revolution during the Sicilian Vespers uprising, proving that when people don't understand astronomy, they invent destiny. It is fascinating that humanity once believed glowing space debris carried moral messages. Yet today, we still blame Mercury retrograde when our emails fail to send. We have upgraded our telescopes, but our need to believe the universe is personally invested in our problems remains remarkably consistent. Segment 2. Empires, violence, and the medieval art of overreaction. In 1296, Edward I of England sacked Berwick-upon-Tweed with such ferocity that chroniclers describe streets running with blood, a level of theatrical brutality that suggests medieval warfare was less about strategy and more about brand management through fear. Meanwhile, in 598 AD, the siege of Tomis collapsed not because of brilliant military maneuvers, but because disease ripped through the Avar forces, reminding us that history's most consistent strategic disruptor has always been microscopic. Empires spend decades building armies, forging alliances, and planning campaigns, only to be undone by something that today would be addressed with soap and hand sanitizer. The medieval world was essentially a long series of rulers saying, "We have a brilliant plan," followed immediately by biology replying, "No, you don't." The lesson is clear. No matter how powerful a kingdom becomes, it is always one poorly ventilated tent away from complete collapse. Segment 3. Religion, authority, and the ultimate organizational pivot. In 1533, Thomas Cranmer became Archbishop of Canterbury, largely because Henry VIII wanted a divorce and the Pope refused, demonstrating that sometimes religious transformation begins with what is essentially a royal customer service dispute. Henry's solution was to create an entirely new church, which is the historical equivalent of canceling a subscription and launching a competing streaming service out of spite. The English Reformation permanently reshaped European politics, theology, and power structures, proving that institutional change often begins with personal frustration scaled to national policy. Meanwhile, in 1699, Guru Gobind Singh established the Khalsa, redefining Sikh identity through unity, equality, and the merging of spiritual devotion with the moral obligation of self-defense. Unlike Henry's theological improvisation, the Khalsa represented a structured and principled transformation designed to ensure survival under persecution. History shows us that belief systems are not static relics, but evolving frameworks that communities reshape in response to pressure, conflict, and the need to protect identity. Segment 4. Science attempts to make the universe less confusing. In 1791, France introduced the metric system during the chaos of revolution, demonstrating that even while overthrowing monarchies, humanity still found time to argue about unit conversions. Scientists define the meter based on the Earth's meridian, attempting to ground measurement in universal constants rather than arbitrary traditions like the length of a king's limb or the approximate width of 12 barley grains stacked creatively. The scientists conducting these measurements had to navigate political paranoia during the Reign of Terror, meaning that the creation of modern measurement involved both mathematical precision and avoiding accusations of espionage. Meanwhile, in 1842, Dr. Crawford Long successfully used ether anesthesia in surgery, allowing patients to undergo medical procedures without experiencing unbearable agony. Prior to anesthesia, surgery was essentially a race between pain tolerance and speed, often accompanied by alcohol and prayer as the primary anesthetic strategy. The introduction of ether transformed medicine by allowing surgeons to slow down and actually think, which generally improves outcomes in most professions, including those involving sharp instruments and internal organs. Segment 5. Empires fall, borders shift, and someone buys a frozen gamble. The Battle of Paris in 1814 ended Napoleon's dominance of Europe, largely because invading Russia in winter continues to be a historically ineffective career move. The Treaty of Paris in 1856 ended the Crimean War and temporarily stabilized European power structures, though history shows that stability in Europe often just means everyone is regrouping for the sequel. In 1867, the United States purchased Alaska from Russia for $7.2 million, a deal widely mocked as Seward's folly, proving that long-term strategic thinking often looks ridiculous in the short term. Critics believe the U.S. had purchased nothing but snow, ice, and regret, only for Alaska to later provide enormous reserves of natural resources and geopolitical positioning. On the same date in 1870, the 15th Amendment guaranteed voting rights regardless of race, representing a monumental expansion of democratic ideals, even as implementation lagged behind aspiration for decades. History frequently introduces transformative principles long before societies are ready to fully honor them. Segment 6. Modern power, colonial chess, and the fragility of leadership. In 1912, the Treaty of Fez turned Morocco into a French protectorate, illustrating how imperial powers often disguise domination as administrative assistance. Colonial agreements often involve negotiations, where the most affected populations were not actually invited to participate, a diplomatic tradition thankfully less fashionable today, though not entirely extinct. In 1981, President Ronald Reagan survived an assassination attempt that reshaped security protocols and highlighted vulnerabilities in the continuity of government during the Cold War. The attack was motivated not by geopolitics, but by a misguided attempt to impress actress Jodie Foster, reminding us that history's consequences are often shaped by motivations that feel disturbingly trivial compared to their impact. Governments reacted by reevaluating emergency procedures, proving that sometimes institutions only modernize after being dramatically reminded that unpredictability is undefeated. In conclusion, March 30th demonstrates that history is rarely a straight line of rational decisions leading neatly to progress. Instead, it is a chaotic accumulation of cosmic misunderstandings, political improvisation, scientific breakthroughs, and deeply human miscalculations. The past shows us that societies evolve not because humans suddenly become wise, but because we repeatedly survive the consequences of our own overconfidence. From comets inspiring wars to measurement systems redefining reality, March 30th reveals that progress often emerges from confusion, persistence, and the occasional fortunate accident. If history provides any comfort, it is the reminder that future generations will likely look back on our own moment with the same mixture of disbelief and recognition, wondering how we managed to get anything accomplished at all while still arguing about things that, in hindsight, probably should have been obvious.